We are back to Premier League action tomorrow as the Kings of Kings Road, Chelsea, take on Fulham FC on Fulham Road at Stamford Bridge. But who will play, and how did Chelsea win? Let's get to it. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mono from Mono CFC and welcome to the lead-in. Like always, I'm going to be predicting the lineups that I feel will play and show how I believe our team could set up tactically. So, without further ado, let's firstly look at our opponents for this match. Fulham are currently sitting in 13th place in the Premier League table. 7 wins, 3 draws and 10 losses sees them on 24 points, just 4 points behind us in 10th. This is the second time that Chelsea under Pochettino have faced Fulham in recent history. In pre-season we beat the black and white outfit 2-0, and the reverse fixture in the league we won by 2-0 too, courtesy of Mykhailo Mudryk and Armando Broja. Fulham will be looking to learn from those defeats and take advantage of a low confidence Chelsea side in this one. So, how are they planning to try and achieve that? Let's look at the team. Fulham, managed by the Portuguese Marco Silva, like our last opponent, set up in a very standard 4-2-3-1/4-3-3. However, the lineup won't be as strong as it could be. They have a number of important absentees, but a few players are also returning to the side, so I'll be fielding what I believe is their strongest team with the players available. First up in goal though, it's pretty obvious that German Bernd Leno will take up the gloves for this one. As I often say, he's their number one. For the back four, this is going to be similar to the defence that started against Liverpool in the Cup, but first up at right back, I'm going to be taking Timothy Castagne out in favour of Kenny Tete, who always seems to show up against us. For the centre-back duo, this will remain the same as Calvin Bassey is away for AFCON, and vice-captain Tim Ream is only just back from an injury. Thus, Tosin Adarabioyo and Issa Diop start at right and left centre-back respectively. At left-back, AC Milan loanee Foda Ballo-Touré is away with Nicolas Jackson's Senegal team in AFCON too, but he probably wasn't taking the place of Anthony Robinson, who's been in excellent form this season for the Cottagers. Moving into the midfield, this is going to be rotated slightly as well. First, let's put in the holding duo, where Harrison Reed drops out due to going down injured in the Liverpool game, and is replaced pretty comfortably by Sasa Lukic. The man next to him will be, as ever, the Portuguese destroyer João Paulinho. For the attacking midfielder, I don't think this will change. Andreas Pereira starts once more. Moving into the attacking roles, we'll start on the right hand side. Fortunately for us, Alex Iwobi is another man who is away for AFCON, so Jamaican Bobby De Cordova-Reid starts instead. On the opposite side is a man we are all very familiar with, veteran Brazilian and ex-Chelsea cult hero Willian. Finally, up top in the striker role, spearheading the team will be Mexican forward Raul Jimenez. Now, I'm not going to talk about Fulham's tactics here like usual. I've covered them twice already this season, so if you want to get some insight into them, I recommend watching this video from pre-season when I spoke more in depth about them. But quick reminder that as usual I'll be streaming after the game on this channel to give my first reactions during GBU Live, so come through. However, I will mention a few things of note about them. Firstly, Fulham's form is very similar to ours, inconsistent at best and poor at worst. They go from extreme highs, like thumping Nottingham Forest and West Ham 5-0 back-to-back, to losing to Burnley 2-0, going through in the FA Cup, to then losing the first leg of their EFL Cup semi-final. The parallels to Chelsea's form is funny to me, as we have recently done the same thing. That being said, despite those small setbacks, Fulham are in much better form than they were at the start of the season, with over half of their 7 wins this season coming between the end of November to now. They are a very exciting team going forward now under Marco Silva, with 18 of their 28 goals this season coming in that period. The issue is, as mentioned before, they are very inconsistent. In that same time frame, they went on a run of 3 games without scoring against the diminished Newcastle, Burnley and Bournemouth. But the defence is where the cart really falls off the rails. Fulham have conceded a whopping 35 goals in the league so far, which is the 5th worst defensive record in the league. But again, this is an inconsistent stat too, because they actually have the 3rd highest amount of clean sheets as well, with 5. Just like their West London neighbours, they are a very up and down team, so who knows what will happen in this one, honestly. Another thing to note is that Fulham have a pretty poor away record, and this game is an early afternoon tie at Stamford Bridge, which has been a fortress as of late. Despite our crowd being a bit disconnected from the team at the moment with all that's going on at the club, Stamford Bridge remains a daunting place to come for a team like Fulham, who have conceded 23 goals away from home, with only the dismal Sheffield United having conceded more with 25. There's not much more that I can say about Fulham that I haven't mentioned in the past, so as always I'd like to focus more on our own team from now on, so speaking of the Blues, let's talk about Chelsea. But real quick, if you're enjoying the content and want to see more, please consider subscribing to the channel. Cheers. Let's start with the formation. I'm going to be putting us into a very strong team. This is a very important game in our season, so we should treat it as such. I'll be putting us into the 4-3-3. First up in goal, I'm going to be putting in Georgi Petrovic. Business as usual, let's hope the defence in front of him doesn't rob him of another clean sheet in this one. Now the back four will be the exact same as the cup tie, simply because we don't have any other options unless Poch wants to put Gilchrist at right back again. So at right back will be Frenchman Malo Gusto, the centre back pairing will be Axel Disasi and Thiago Silva, and unfortunately over at left back we have Levi Colwill. Moving into the midfield, I think this should change from the cup tie, but Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo are must picks as usual in the holding roles. For the attacking mid, I will be taking out Conor Gallagher, who I thought had a pretty poor game against Borough, and instead Cole Palmer should play here and not as a false 9. For the final three, this is pretty simple for me. Madueke starts on the right, I think he's our most dangerous player in that role. Mykhailo Mudryk starts on the left because Sterling was back to his inconsistent, awful self in that game too, and I'm still wondering how he played the full 90. Finally, up top I'll be putting in Armando Broja, who was absent from the starting 11 last time out inexplicably. This means that 2/3 of the front line that played and scored versus Fulham last time out will play here. Now I'm going to break down how I think we should play in order to get a result against Fulham, but before I do so, it's time for the question of the day. As always, I'm going to highlight some of the comments from the last video, so here are a few responses to the last question of the day. Thanks guys for your continued support as ever. If you want your comment to be featured in the next video, leave your answer to this video's question of the day down below with QOTD at the start as always. So for this week's question of the day, we'll go for a simple one. What place do you think Chelsea will finish in the Premier League table? And why? Alright, so how will we play? Well, I think this game is going to be another hard-fought victory if we are to win. Fulham have shown against Liverpool that they are willing to sit deep and absorb pressure, create opportunities on the counter-attack and can score from them, and frustrate the opposition. This worked for the majority of the time against the Merseyside outfit, with Fulham being rather unlucky to concede from a deflected Curtis Jones effort. Fulham are a team that once they concede once are likely to concede again, like we saw in our previous game against them, and that happened in that cup tie too, with Gakpo bagging shortly after and winning the tie for the Reds. However, we are not Liverpool, we are Chelsea Football Club, and we are absolutely atrocious against low block defensive teams. I genuinely fear for us in this game, and if we don't get the first goal, I could see us very easily capitulating and losing this one. So we will need to set up in a way so that doesn't happen, and thus I'm going to highlight some keys to success here as always. Firstly, Fulham have shown a pattern in recent times of losing to teams that are good on the transition or opt to allow the Cottagers more possession. We saw this against Burnley, against Bournemouth, even against us in the reverse fixture. They seem to do better when they don't have as much possession and can use their pace on the break to create opportunities, like we saw against Arsenal and Liverpool to an extent. Thus, I think our game plan for this match should follow one of two strategies. The first is to build up slow from the back and allow Fulham to press high, as they like to do sometimes, and hit them quickly once men are committed higher up the field, similarly to how we created our first goal against them last time out. The second is similar, but to once again allow Fulham to commit men forward in possession, win the ball back via our midfield press, and utilise that space in behind once more. Fulham's defenders look suspect when they have to run towards their own goal, and with the attacking lineup that I've put out here, we have plenty of pace to send them the other way. I usually like to highlight key battles, and in this game I think it's over here on the right hand side for us. The player I want to highlight is Anthony Robinson, who, as I mentioned earlier, is in pretty decent form. He's exceptionally pacey and loves to get forward when able, providing the overlap for Willian, who more often than not cuts inside on his right foot. This threat is why I have opted to play Madueke over Sterling for this game, because Noni is much better at tracking back than Sterling is, and can help out Malo Gusto on that right hand side when needed. Not only that, but when the American is committed higher up the pitch, there is space to exploit for Madueke on the break, who can go both ways, outside on the touchline or inside on his stronger left foot. With Colwill starting at left back, our team's attack should mainly go down the right, as Gusto pushes up higher, and so I think this side is vitally important in our attack for this game. There's been a lot of talk about the misprofiling of players from Pochettino recently, with reports suggesting that 3 to 4 players are complaining to other members of staff about being utilised incorrectly. We can kinda guess who these players are in truth, but I think the main one that is at the forefront of these complaints is one Enzo Fernandez. I seem to bring this up every single game week, but Enzo needs to be playing deeper if we are to play to his strengths. Playing him as a 10 or inside forward is downright criminal and completely negates one of his biggest attributes, long progressive passes. If he's up here, he's crowded, he doesn't have the space to get his head up and find the runs of his teammates. Our forwards all love to make runs in behind, and he's one of the only players in the team that can find them with a pass, but he's unable to do so if he's not in the right position. If we are to find success against Fulham, these direct passes on the transition will be key, and he'll have to be the one to do them. He needs to be back in the pivot, or at least playing as an 8 instead of a 10. This game is massive in terms of our European aspirations. As it stands, we are only one win away from that coveted 7th place where we can qualify for Europe, and with us losing the first leg of our EFL Cup tie, we may not be able to rely on that for automatic qualification. We would need the 3 teams above us all to lose, and that is a very real possibility with Newcastle playing City, United playing Spurs, and Brighton playing Wolves, who are in good form. This could be an extraordinary weekend for us if everything goes right, so we must do our part first and beat our West London rivals in the derby. I want to see fight from the team. This is one of the most important fixtures of our season. We cannot lose this. For a score prediction, I'm going to, as ever, predict a Chelsea win, and I'm going to be quite cautious in my assessment and say that Chelsea will beat Fulham by only 2-1. I'm going to say that our goals will come from Broja, slotting the ball into the bottom right corner, and Thiago Silva with a header from a corner. For Fulham, if Willian doesn't score against us, I will be surprised. But that was just my lead-in match preview for Chelsea vs Fulham. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these possible lineups in the comment section below, and if you'd be so kind, subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, or check out some of the other videos on the channel on screen right now. I've been Mono from Mono CFC, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues.